falling in love remains one of the most mesmerizing, transformative experiences in human existence. It has shaped culture, literature, and philosophy across continents and generations, guiding individuals to discover new dimensions of self, spirit, and interpersonal connections. Many poets have extolled its beauty, countless philosophers have analyzed its complexity, and numerous psychologists have attempted to map its patterns. Yet for all the careful investigation and lofty speechifying about love, nothing, retains a certain transcendence, an intangible spark that makes even the most thorough definitions incomplete. Falling in love is an experience that integrates physical attraction, intellectual fascination, emotional nurturance, spiritual connectedness, and at times a sense of cosmic alignment. The enigma of falling in love. In ordinary discourse, people often describe falling in love as a moment of magic or destiny, something that suddenly disarms the intellect and seizes the heart without warning. We speak of butterflies in the stomach or feeling a rush of euphoria. Yet upon closer reflection, the phenomenon of falling in love may be better understood as the convergence of multiple energies, emotional readiness, personal values, relational attraction, and even archetypal forces beyond the initial rush or spark. There is a dance of perception and projection, as we see in the writings of numerous thinkers and authors. In the Symposium by Plato, characters discuss the nature of love, or eros, as a pursuit of beauty and goodness. Love is described as both a desire for wholeness and a ladder that can ascend from physical attraction to contemplation of the divine. Though these dialogues take place in ancient times, the notion that love is a pursuit of self-completion finds resonance in modern psychology, where attraction often arises from a yearning to unite with qualities we find lacking in ourselves or qualities that evoke fascination. The notion of falling underscores a feeling of surrender, as if stepping off the ledge of self-protection into an embrace of shared vulnerability. In The Art of Loving by Eric from Love is proposed as something that requires discipline, concentration, patience, faith, and an overcoming of narcissism, rather than viewing love as a fleeting emotion. From Eric, it proposes to us to consider it as a skill or an art to be cultivated deliberately. While the initial phases of romance can feel spontaneous, sustaining that sense of connectedness and depth demands a conscious practice. There's nothing here of empathy, respect, and responsibility. The falling in love may happen in a moment, but being in love takes a lifetime, or more precisely, it demands continuing effort and reflection. Day by day, one notable aspect of this phenomenon is how it can defy rational explanation. Many individuals describe meeting their beloved and sensing a fateful spark, a connection unlike any they have ever encountered. Psychologically speaking, from an attachment perspective, we are drawn toward dynamics that reflect our earliest formative relationships. Our unconscious mind recognizes patterns or chemistry that can replicate old emotional experiences, whether they were healthy or fraught. Thus, falling in love might be both exhilarating and familiar. We sense we have found our person, even if we cannot articulate why. This intricate mix of familiarity and novelty can leave us spellbound. Yet the enigma of falling in love is also shaped by cultural narratives. Western romantic traditions often celebrate the idea of the one, a soulmate or destined partner, who appears as if by cosmic design. These ideals trace back through medieval courtly love traditions and even ancient mythologies of separated halves seeking reunion. In Eastern cultures, concepts of romantic love sometimes differ in emphasis, focusing on spiritual union or communal harmony. Globally, we see manifold images of lovers in poetry, music, and film, shaping personal expectations of what love should look like. Over time, these collective symbols become internalized in each of us, guiding the trajectory of falling in love. This is why it is never purely a matter of biochemical processes, even though hormones and neurotransmitters play their part. The feeling of falling in love can indeed be traced to fluctuations in dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. But that alone cannot account for the deeper sense of shared meaning that emerges when two individuals look into each other's eyes and see a reflection of both what is and what could be. The synergy between mind, body, and cultural imagination creates an experience that is undeniably complex. Philosophical roots of love. Philosophy's attempt to decipher the nature of love stretches back to the earliest records of human thought. While it would be impossible to name all the philosophers who have tackled this subject, there are certain voices that help paint a grand portrait of love's complexity. Plato, the Symposium, stands as one of the foundational texts during the gathering that Plato orchestrates dramatically. Various characters give accounts of love's essence. Socrates famously shares the teachings of Diotima, who portrays love as a spiritual force that leads one from physical desire to higher forms of virtue and understanding. This concept suggests that when we love, we are partially seeking an ascent toward that which is eternally good and beautiful. The physical attraction between two people is not the end in itself, but a doorway to something more profound. Our Aristotle, in his Nicomachean Ethics, suggests that the highest friendship, often aligned with a form of virtuous love, is based on mutual appreciation of the other's goodness. This bond moves beyond mere pleasure or utility, aiming at the flourishing of both parties. In this light, love becomes an ethical practice, one that fosters virtue and moral development. While not all forms of love are purely altruistic, there is a sense that true love lifts us, challenging each person to grow. Later philosophical movements explored love through a variety of lenses, including existentialism, phenomenology, and postmodern deconstruction. The German thinker Arthur Schopenhauer viewed love as an instrument of the will to life, a cosmic force that drives procreation and survival. Søren Kard reflected on the tension between romantic love and religious devotion, highlighting the leaps of faith that love compels us to take. Jean-Paul Sartre saw love as fraught with struggle and potential objectification with lovers. Caught between wanting to be valued as subjects and also longing to be desired from these scattered meditations, a portrait emerges of love as an experience that engages the deepest questions of meaning, identity, and freedom. Falling in love invites us to re-examine how we relate to ourselves, to others, and ultimately to existence itself. Do we love another person for who they are, or for how they make us feel about ourselves? How do we hold the tension between self-fulfillment and self-sacrifice? What do we do when love collides with the inevitability of suffering and loss? Philosophy reminds us that love is not just an incidental emotion. It is woven into the fabric of our search for truth. The psychology of attachment and desire. Turning from philosophy to psychology, one can find a wealth of research and theories that attempt to ground love in more empirical or clinical frameworks. Attachment theory, developed by thinkers such as John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, has been highly influential in explaining how early relationships with caregivers shape later romantic bonds. If one experienced a secure attachment in childhood, it tends to foster healthier adult relationships. If one endured inconsistent or neglectful care, it might lead to anxious or avoidant patterns in love. As we fall in love, we often unconsciously seek partners that mirror the security or insecurity of our past. This does not mean that we are doomed to replicate patterns forever. Many people successfully break free from unhealthy cycles and form loving bonds that provide healing experiences. Nonetheless, Awareness of our attachment style can give insight into how we respond to intimacy, whether with eagerness, suspicion, or a mix of both. Both understanding these dynamics can also help us cultivate patience, both for ourselves and our partners. The knowledge that certain reactions might be rooted in long-standing emotional patterns can encourage compassion rather than blame or resentment. Another relevant aspect of love psychology is the notion of projection. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, introduced the idea that in romantic love, we often project our inner anima or animus, or more broadly, our unconscious desires, fears, or aspirations onto the beloved. This can create a potent cocktail of fascination and idealization as we see in the other a reflection of both who we want to be and what we lack over time. As we get to know the real person, behind the projection, disillusionment can set in, causing confusion or disappointment. Yet this process also holds the potential for deeper intimacy. If we can into these projections consciously, we move beyond the initial illusions into a grounded love that acknowledges the beloved's actual individuality. Clinical psychologists have also investigated the stages of romantic relationships, suggesting that many couples pass through a phase of infatuation or limerence marked by intense longing, excitement, and obsessive thoughts. This can give way after a time to more stable forms of attachment characterized by comfort, commitment, and emotional security. While the transition from the high of infatuation to the quieter rhythms of stable love can feel disorienting, it often leads to a richer bond that includes shared goals, values, and mutual growth. The continued research on what fosters long-term satisfaction suggests that honest communication, empathy, flexibility, and a willingness to adapt to change are critical ingredients from a social psychological standpoint. Falling in love is also influenced by factors like proximity, similarity of interests, reciprocal liking, and social context. Research shows that we are more likely to fall in love with someone with whom we share common ground or who appears to reciprocate our level of attraction. This does not suggest that love can be entirely predicted or manipulated. Rather, it points to the way external circumstances and internal dispositions cooperate in the process of connection. The art's patience in love. For many, the deepest challenge in love is not falling in love, but learning how to be patient enough to navigate love's inevitable ebbs and flows. Patience here is not a passive waiting, it's an active stance of allowing love to evolve, even through moments of uncertainty. Conflict or disappointment in the art of loving. Eric from notes that authentic love requires effort, humility, and discipline. These qualities are intimately connected to patience, for it is only by resisting the impulse to demand immediate gratification or perfect harmony that we can build a lasting foundation. Patient love begins with patience toward oneself. When we fall in love, we often face insecurities or old wounds that surface precisely because the relationship invites vulnerability. We might worry about being enough for our partner or fear abandonment if our imperfections show. Developing patience here means acknowledging these feelings, seeking self-understanding, and perhaps confiding in supportive friends, mentors, or therapists. It involves recognizing that growth in love is not a straight line. There are moments of doubt and even despair, yet these moments can become catalysts for personal development and deeper intimacy if we meet them with curiosity rather than panic. Patient love also extends toward the beloved. In the flush of new romance, it is easy to view the other person through an idealized lens, expecting them to fulfill every emotional need or behave precisely as we imagine a perfect partner should. Over time, we discover that no human being can live up to that. Real love, then, is a willingness to meet the other person where they are, accepting that they have their own story, their own pace of growth, and their own fears. True patience in love does not imply enabling all destructive behavior or ignoring red flags. Rather, it implies giving space for the beloved's humanity, including their imperfections. Moreover, patience is about honoring the rhythm of a relationship. Every connection has its own tempo. Some couples move swiftly into cohabitation or engagement, while others take a slower route. Some might even step back from a relationship to reevaluate, only to return later with a renewed sense of commitment. These paths are neither right nor wrong, as long as they align with the genuine needs and values of both individuals. The art of patience is the capacity to trust that love, when nourished by mutual respect and genuine care, will flourish in the right timing. When we rush love, we often become stuck in cycles of desperation or manipulation. We might try to force a commitment when the bond is not yet strong enough, or we might create artificial crises to test our partner's loyalty. These behaviors tend to undermine the very security we seek. Patience, in contrast, respects the organic unfolding of connection, allowing each person to continually choose the bond rather than be pressured into it. This fosters an environment of freedom and trust, which is a necessary condition for love's deeper growth. Practical ways to cultivate patience. Patience might seem like a vague virtue, something we either have or do not have. Yet, as suggested by Eric Fr's perspective on love as an art, there are practical ways to strengthen our capacity for patience in relationships. One starting point is self-reflection. Keeping a journal of our emotional landscape can help us identify triggers, recurring patterns, and potential blind spots. Whenever impatience arises, we can explore what fear or desire lies beneath it. Are we anxious about abandonment? Do we feel our boundaries are being crossed? Journaling can help transform vague irritations into tangible insights, which can then be shared with our partner in a calm, constructive manner. Another avenue is mindfulness practice. Many teachings emphasize the importance of staying present, observing one's breath, and accepting whatever thoughts or sensations arise without judgment in love. Mindfulness allows us to pause before reacting, to notice our inner storms, and to respond with greater clarity. When a partner says something that hurts or confuses us, a mindful approach helps us avoid lashing out or withdrawing impulsively. Instead, we can communicate our feelings more openly or ask clarifying questions, a form of patient engagement. Nurturing other dimensions of life is also crucial. Sometimes impatience in love stems from expecting a partner to provide all our happiness or fulfillment. Cultivating a sense of purpose beyond the relationship through creative projects, friendships, community involvement, or spiritual practice alleviates this pressure. It ensures that love is free to grow, not forced to bear the impossible weight of meeting every emotional need. This broader sense of fulfillment also enhances our attractiveness as we bring a well-rounded self into the partnership, ready to share rather than simply receive. Additionally, establishing healthy boundaries can cultivate patience. This may sound counterintuitive at first, but knowing our limits and communicating them clearly can prevent resentment from festering. Boundaries allow each partner space to be authentic, which in turn fosters a more patient environment. It is easier to remain calm and trusting when we know our needs can be voiced and respected without such boundaries. Patience can devolve into passive endurance, which is not the same thing as love. Lastly, a useful practice is gratitude, reflecting on the qualities that drew us to our partner, and the moments of genuine connection can create a reservoir of goodwill that helps us remain patient during challenging times. This is not about ignoring problems or glossing over legitimate concerns. It is about balancing necessary criticism with an appreciation of the bond's strengths. The synergy of honest appraisal and grateful acknowledgement can sustain a patient, hopeful attitude in the face of difficulties. Love and the human search for meaning beyond the practicalities of patience. Love touches on core existential themes. Many have suggested that to love is to confront both the promise of transcendence and the inevitability of loss. Love at its best feels boundless and eternal. Yet we are finite creatures. This tension fuels a deep sense of meaning while also opening the door to suffering. As the poet Rhea Maria Rilke wrote, "For one human being to love another, that is perhaps the most difficult of all our tasks." Difficult, yet also one of the most worthy. Existential thinkers often emphasize the idea that by loving another person, we step outside the confines of purely individual concerns. We choose to share vulnerability, to see the world in tandem, to create a narrative that includes another's hopes and dreams. This stepping beyond can yield profound fulfillment, but it also demands courage, for heartbreak and disappointment remain possible. The knowledge that nothing is guaranteed can lead us to either cling tightly or to love more freely, appreciating every shared moment. Patience in love involves acknowledging that uncertainty is woven into the fabric of existence. We cannot fully control another's heart or the larger circumstances that shape our lives. Instead, we find meaning in the act of loving itself. In giving and receiving with openness, philosophers, poets, and spiritual teachers across diverse traditions have pointed out how love can provide a kind of glimpse into the infinite. Whether conceptualized as divine grace, cosmic unity, or the wellspring of being, love has been likened to a gateway between the human and the transcendent. Even for those who do not adhere to a particular religion, the profound sense of awe and interconnection that arises in love can feel sacred. It is as if we see for a moment the hidden potential in ourselves and others, the seeds of a deeper reality that transcends everyday logic. Yet in the midst of this ecstatic dimension, love also requires attending to mundane realities, paying bills, scheduling chores, resolving disagreements over how to spend a weekend. The real artistry of patient love is integrating the sublime and the everyday. When we succeed, we discover that washing dishes together or engaging in routine tasks can become opportunities for small acts of care. Love thrives not only in grand gestures and dramatic confessions, but in the gentle rhythms of shared life where trust and devotion grow incrementally over time. The role of self-love. It would be incomplete to speak of falling in love without addressing the foundation of self-love. While the term self-love can sometimes be misunderstood as selfishness or vanity, many thinkers and clinicians stress its importance for healthy relationships. As taught by Bell Hooks, in All About Love, genuine self-love nurtures our capacity to love others fully because it entails self-respect, self-compassion, and accountability for one's actions. When we lack self-love, we might fall into codependent or manipulative relationships, seeking external validation to patch up inner wounds. Self-love is not about thinking we are flawless or entitled. Rather, it is about embracing our inherent worthiness and potential for growth. It encourages us to celebrate our strengths and gently work on our limitations. If we enter a relationship from a place of emotional impoverishment, expecting the other to complete us or rescue us from self-loathing, we place an unfair burden on the bond. The result is often disappointment or conflict. Alternatively, a grounded sense of self-love allows us to offer love as a gift, not as a desperate plea for affirmation. For many people, cultivating self-love might involve therapy, spiritual practice, or simply a period of introspection. Outside of dating, it can demand healing from past traumas or letting go of internalized beliefs that undermine self-worth. The process is rarely Linner, one day we may feel confident and deserving, while on another day, doubts resurface. The key is to persist, recognizing that self-love is a lifelong journey. The reward is a healthier, more joyful capacity to receive and give. Give love to others rather than a mere sentiment. Self-love becomes an anchor that stabilizes us amid the shifting tides of interpersonal connection. Cultural perspectives on falling in love, though often spoken of in universal terms. The human experience. This work is particularly helpful for placing romantic love in context, showing how it interacts with other forms of affection and devotion. All About Love by Bell Hooks addresses how cultural forces shape our notions of love and calls for a more inclusive, justice-oriented conception. Hooks critiques the way society fails to equip individuals with the emotional tools for genuine love, offering a pathway toward healing and wholeness. Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel focuses on desire within long-term relationships, examining how couples can balance the need for security with the spark of eroticism. It unravels the paradoxes of modern love, especially in the context of marriage or long-term commitment. These works are by no means exhaustive. Many cultural traditions offer rich perspectives on love, whether through sacred scriptures, poetry, or folk wisdom. The key takeaway from reading widely is recognizing that love is multifaceted, both personal and universal, demanding continuous attention and reflection, navigating heartbreak and renewal. Inevitably, not all experiences of falling in love lead to lifelong partnership. Heartbreak is a potent teacher, though a painful one. When a relationship ends through betrayal, mutual agreement, or external circumstances, an individual may feel as though the ground has fallen away. In that sorrow, though, lies a potential for greater self-knowledge. Heartbreak forces us to grieve, not just the loss of the other person, but the vision of a future we had constructed. Patience during heartbreak means allowing time to grieve without rushing to numb the pain or rebound hastily. Yet heartbreak can also be an invitation to reimagine one's identity. The dissolution of a relationship can reveal where we might have merged too fully, losing touch with our individuality. It can also show us patterns that no longer serve our growth. Though it may be tempting to close off to love altogether, heartbreak often signals a turning point, an opportunity to refine what we truly value in a relationship, what we are willing to compromise, and what remains non-negotiable. With support from friends, professionals, and self-care practices, heartbreak can transform into a renewed openness to love, this time with greater wisdom and clarity. Indeed, many people cite heartbreak as an impetus for discovering inner strength or spiritual insight. In moments of deep vulnerability, we might find that our capacity for empathy expands, or that we become more attuned to the suffering of others. This new sensitivity can enrich future relationships, equipping us with a deeper capacity for compassion. Conversely, if heartbreak leads to bitterness or sin, we may carry that negativity into subsequent bonds, perpetuating a cycle of distrust. Patience with ourselves and with love itself is crucial to ensure that the lessons of heartbreak